the guys and just address the group and, but nothing, above and beyond or, we'll see how he is tomorrow. Our group, the character of it will come through. And we're going home. It's 2-2. We're going back to Milwaukee.
And we'll see what happens with Giannis. It'd be great if he plays, but if he's not, we still have a capable team. We're going out there and winning. I talked to him briefly. Positive to say, we dropped this one, gotta go get the next one.
It's not good. Anytime you see your best player go down, it's not great, but it's an opportunity for somebody else and everybody else to step up. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. There's no excuses. It doesn't matter. Whoever's playing, who's not playing, they got guys out. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's banged up. Everybody has injuries. You got to fight through and win.
Not really sure about the jacket there, but the Bucks trailed by 10 when Antetokounmpo left the game, and things then went from bad to worse. Shortly after he was injured, the Hawks ripped off a 15-0 run, wound up leading by 25 points at the end of the quarter, adding insult to injury. Let's welcome in Stephen A. Smith now for more. Steve, the Hawks were already in control of the game before Giannis Antetokounmpo left. So what was your overall impression of what you saw Tuesday night in Atlanta?
Well, I thought the Atlanta Hawks deserved a lot of props to not have Trae Young and to come out there with Bogdanovich suffering from his own knee injury, but then going out there and performing the way that he did, looking for his shot and hit some early threes to set the tone. I think that sent the message. I think you look at Lou Williams, Sixth Man of the Year award winner in the past. This guy is lethal, and he showed up. And even though the Milwaukee Bucks were en route to coming back, you can't take away from the fact that Atlanta built that lead, and Giannis getting hurt obviously puts them in a precarious position as well. But as far as I'm concerned, if you got a guy like Chris Middleton and a guy like Jrue Holiday, if Giannis has to be out, maybe not for the rest of this series, but they should definitely be able to get you one game without him. And if they can't do that, maybe they're not what we thought they were.
All right, so does this series just come down to now, tied at 2-2, potentially 2 games left in Milwaukee, 1 in Atlanta. Does this come down to which star can get healthy enough to become effective?
You can say that because you can see it going 7 games, obviously. But again, I'm going to go to Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. I call Chris Middleton my Mr. Roller Coaster. He'll drop 39 one game, 13 the next, and come back and drop 38 the game after that. You just never know what you're going to get from him on a night-in, night-out basis. And in the case of Jrue Holiday, 1 minute he's playing elite defense, another minute he's focused on stroking the ball from long range. You don't know what you're going to get from him. But when we looked at the Milwaukee Bucks and we considered them a title contender, once they acquired Jrue Holiday, we said this should be enough. Maybe the Brooklyn Nets would stop them if they were completely healthy. And I believe if Kyrie hadn't gotten hurt, they would have beaten the Milwaukee Bucks. But nevertheless, the Bucks should be good enough to beat the Atlanta Hawks.
This game continued the theme of the postseason this year, which has been injuries. We saw Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, now Antetokounmpo, Trae Young, Kawhi Leonard. It's become really a battle of attrition. How do you think that will affect the perception of the champion that eventually survives all of this?
Well, it's going to delegitimize it to some degree. If you're Giannis Antetokounmpo and you have to go against an Atlanta Hawks team without Trae Young, or if it's vice versa, Trae Young having to go against Giannis Antetokounmpo, or having to go against the Bucks without Giannis, you're going to sit up there and have an asterisk there. If the Clippers manage to lose in the playoffs, you're going to point to the fact that Kawhi Leonard didn't play in this series unless he comes back. The reality is that there's going to be a bunch of questions about guys, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to hear any excuses about the fact that the season started in December, just a couple of months after it ended in October with the Lakers winning in the bubble. That was the reason for all of these injuries. LeBron James uttered that nonsense weeks ago, and nobody should buy it. If he were talking about himself, then we should, because LeBron James in his illustrious career usually plays deep into the playoffs. But most dudes don't have that luxury. If your name ain't LeBron, if your name ain't Steph Curry, you ain't in the finals all the damn time, okay? So because of that reality, we have to look at everybody else. It depends on the situation, but we shouldn't be listening to any excuses about bubble play and then ultimately the season starting in December. What do you want, the whole damn year off? Give me a break. I don't want to hear those excuses. It is what it is.
All right, we just have to hope for health the rest of the way because it makes the games better, and that makes the playoffs as a whole better.
That's right.
All right, Steve, we appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Who's the most important player in Game 4 tonight? Oh, it's easy. We just saw him. That guy limping back from the locker room. Trey is the only guy that matters for that Hawks team. You can look over at the Bucks and you can see like a legitimate big three. And I mean no disrespect to the guys on the Hawks team, but they don't really have a legitimate big three. They got Trey and a bunch of really, really good young role players who are rising to the occasion. But if Trey doesn't show up, they don't stand a chance. Like, if he's not close to 100%, like, I get it. Nobody's 100% this time of year. But if he's limping around, hobbling, and not getting lift on his shot like he was in the fourth quarter of that last game, they don't stand a chance. Like, he's got to run that pick and roll and hit those little teardrops and set those alley-oops up to set up the open shots for guys on the perimeter. Like, that is their offense. So if he doesn't show up, they're an entirely different team. But I can look over on the other side, and you could take one or two of those guys off the team and still have somebody that you can build a team around. So I don't know. I assume we're having this topic because Kendrick disagrees, but I'm not sure how you can possibly disagree with that. Like, they're the most important person in this game is obviously Trae Young, right?
Well, no, not right. I mean, look, you said a lot of good things, and I'm not totally disagreeing with you. Trae Young is the most important player to the Atlanta Hawks, and that's the obvious, right? But who's picked to win this series? The Milwaukee Bucks. Who has the most talent? The Milwaukee Bucks. Who has the big three? The Milwaukee Bucks. Only two of those guys have shown up, and that's Chris Middleton and Giannis. Drew Holiday. Where in the hell are you, okay? You are supposed to be one of the best two-way players in the game today. Right now, you're not guarding anybody because Trae Young is having it his way. I believe he dropped 40 on you in game one or whatever the case may be. He's probably averaging around 35 or 36 in the goddamn series. Where are you on the defensive side of things? Offensively, Trae Young, what are you doing? I mean, Drew Holiday, what are you doing? Trae Young is a smaller guard. Take him to the low block. We all know how gifted Trae Young is offensively, but defensively, he can't guard a parked car. 2 for 11. They brought him here to be the one to get them over the hump. Drew Holiday, where are you? You are nowhere to be found right now. I'm seeing too many careless turnovers, too many missed layups, just playing careless basketball. You have to deliver. If Drew Holiday elevates his game, the Bucks win this game tonight, and they win the series in great fashion. That's why Drew Holiday, in my opinion, is the most important player in this series.
I think Drew definitely wants to step up. And I think the Bucks want to see him step up, but you're arguing against yourself a little bit right there. They win in the series without him showing up in the way that you expect him to be. So to me, that kind of proves the point that he is not nearly as important as Trae Young is. We saw what happened to that team when Trae Young went out, and we all know what will happen to that team if Trae Young can't do the things that he's been doing. So I'm with you. Drew Holiday, we expect more from him given how much they gave up to get him and given what they expect from that team, but they expect to win the series. They're on track to win this series, so it's hard for me to I guess you could say there's more pressure on Drew Holiday because they have these expectations, but it's hard for me to say that he's more important than Trae Young, and honestly, it's hard for me to say he's more important than Middleton or Giannis because they're winning on the backs of Middleton, on the back of Giannis, and the only game that the Hawks won and their only chance of winning is if Trae Young shows up and plays like the superstar that he has become this year in the playoffs. So Drew Holiday is important, but not that important.
Dominique, you really need to stop, man. You really need to stop. They paid this man $160 million. You don't think he's that important? He's pretty damn important, okay? And for the simple fact is this, and I'm going to go back to the defensive side of things. He's supposed to be able to come in and neutralize Trae Young. Drew Holiday, acts around the NBA, well respected, one of the most underrated defenders in the league, first team all defense. You are not supposed to be letting Trae Young hang 40s and 35s on you. If Trae Young don't get injured, I don't know which direction that game would have went in. But I know one thing, Trae Young was controlling the game. The Hawks had control before Trae Young twisted his ankle. So with that being said, Drew Holiday, that's your matchup. That's your position. You're the point guard. And then on the other end, you're running the show. You're supposed to be that third option guy or even at times the second option guy. You can't be delivering 2 for 11 when you have Trae Young or Hurt or whoever else is trying to guard you. You are better than that. It's just not getting it. It's not good enough. You're the deciding factor.
Yeah, I don't know how Drew Holiday can be first team all defense and underrated. Maybe he should have been defensive player of the year. I don't know. Maybe he is still underrated even though he's first team defense. But I think you made a great point. The Hawks were on track for winning that game until Trae got hurt. And Drew Holiday hasn't contained Trae. The reason why they brought him in there is to contain players like that. So I think that is fair. I think you can expect more from him, and 2 for 11 is not. Go ahead, Perk.
Dominique, Drew Holiday is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. If you ask around the league, they'll tell you that. He don't get enough praise. Yes, he made first team all defense. I get that, or whatever the case may be. But when you ask around the league, they'll tell you, hey, Drew Holiday don't get enough credit for what he brings to the table. And he was brought to this team from the New Orleans Pelicans in the trade for Eric Bledsoe to move the needle and elevate the Milwaukee Bucks to get them over the hump, okay?
Look, you're both right.
They are getting over the hump.
Trae Young's offense and Drew Holiday's defense, because the Hawks right now, they're 4-1 in the postseason when Trae Young scores 35 points or more. They're 5-5 when he fails to score at least 35 points. So you both made very good points. You're both right. What do you know?
Oh,
all right, let's
so nice,
move on because, listen, it has been